Okay. Once we get a couple. Okay. So scratch that. We got everything working now. Chat could hear us. Spotify's playing in the background.
Hello.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody.
All right, they
Sorry
can hear
for
us now.
yeah. Sorry for a lot of technical bullshit that I definitely was trying my best to fix through this. So thank you all for bearing with me. I know we're probably not going to get anyone watching tonight, so let this be a way to like help me kind of vent out a lot of frustration because hey, I came back from San Jose from a work trip. Yay!
Venting
Yay.
stream.
Let's
Yay!
go.
But
He's
and
really
also
venting today because of the topic.
yeah, and that's also like COVID hit me hard, so there's that. That's not fun.
Never.
But overall, because we haven't been on for like a week or two, so depending on how this turns out tonight, it can be a short podcast here or there too. But if anything, that's probably preferable in most people's cases here. But I'm well enough to probably do at least a 45 minute to an hour long buzz. So let's see what we got here going on. Woo! I got that out of my system. We'll do
All right,
like a
Mr.
small
Bowie.
update here. How's
So
everyone
what's
here doing?
going on today? What's going on today?
Oh, right. While I was, well, not really while I was out too, while I was like kind of recovering from COVID too, the whole US finally did something more or less useful, arguably, depending on some people's perspective. The Department of Justice is now criticizing Adobe, or in this case, not criticizing, they're throwing a lawsuit towards Adobe for anti consumer practices. Now,
Anti-consumer practices.
yeah, because I remember I kind of like at least brought this on to each of you guys separately on separate occasions. I mean, so if anything, for those that are probably much more verbally coherent than I am right now, who's in this? Victor, would you mind explaining to the people for me?
Um, Let me be honest and say all I know is the Department of Justice is suing Adobe because of certain policies.
All right, so let's help it kind of narrow that down to the best of my abilities. Now, then, it is mostly because of the fact too that they are accusing them for, in this case, I had my notes here this time around, so I don't sound like I'm an idiot saying shit. Give me a second, real quick. Oh no, where is it? Where is it?
Notes.
I
Immediately
lost my
lost.
notes.
Yeah.
No. But anyways, we'll just go with like the top of the dome here. And it's effectively like what's going on with the Adobe at the moment here is the fact that a lot of people or a lot of things that Adobe has been doing for quite some time is the fact that they're enforcing early termination fees, forcing people to become part of year-long subscription contracts when clearly they were mostly only using it for either a one-time things use or they were mostly just trying to try it out. So let's kind of explain to people here real quick on the business model that Adobe currently is doing right now. It's no longer where you can buy a product key, those that are like ages 27 or up here, or those that
Ages
remember.
27 or up.
Yeah, that's good. Like, let's just say this too. If you guys can remember the fact that you could actually buy Photoshop on Best Buy too, like get the product key from there, that's how the age range was. That's how we're going to
I mean,
reference
you
then.
technically still can. I still see it.
You still see it? Goddamn. All right. Well, then. But regardless, I don't think people will actually do that anymore. Let's be real here.
Oh, correct. But still, they do still sell it.
But
But I think what they do is they don't sell the product code. I think they sell you a year subscription, and then it just renews afterwards.
yeah.
And it just renews after that year.
So really in this case what it's effectively they're trying to accuse Adobe from the Department of Justice's side is that they're making Adobe as a company are making it difficult by in this case hiding early termination fees within their websites because nowhere in whenever you check out the product or try to look through their terms of services, does it ever mention that there's an early termination fee? Nor is there like a way that it implies that you had to be on a year long commitment in order to not get hit by this fee.
Mhm.
So then afterwards, it doesn't hit you with the early termination fee once the users begin to try to cancel the product. But even then, to even cancel the product, it's like in nested like hyperlinks and URLs to get there. To even just try to find a cancel button. And even once you do it, try to fill out the process saying that fuck it, I'll eat the ETF and just try to cancel the product. It will make you go through unnecessary steps just so that you can cancel a product. Such as the fact
I
that you
think
have to
this
give
is
out so much information for why.
yeah, this is an issue with a lot of companies. They make it very hard to just delete an account or cancel an account or things like that. I mean, in some places, yeah, does Adobe have it where you can just cancel your subscription online?
They can cancel their subscription online, yes, but that's also the problem where like
Yeah, but
it's
I'm saying like
mhm,
others require you to call customer service, and
yeah.
that is a whole mess in itself.
Yeah, because half the time too, like there's even a lot of accounts too where people like when talking with customer service, when they're trying to get them to help them cancel their account, they will just hang up on them. So customer service is not helpful in that regard now. And now it's
They've
just like
never been helpful.
they've never been helpful, but it doesn't help Adobe's case. And if they're trying to defend themselves here, right? This is like in the right now we're going to go in a mindset of like how can Adobe defend themselves for this type of shit? And unfortunately, there's not a lot they can really do because this is something that, like, again, it is a issue that is, let's be honest, it feels like it's company wide at this point.
Well, I don't think company wide. I think this is a whole industry problem.
Yeah, it's a industry problem because let's be honest too. I don't think Netflix has, well, actually, no, I could be wrong too. Netflix probably does have a lengthy method for you until you want to cancel subscriptions. But then that's the only reason why like Adobe has like these types of methods and policies in place is so that one, they don't incentivize you to cancel your subscription. You're forced to keep the subscription when it doesn't make sense for you.
But I think okay, so let's be. I think let's make one thing clear. I don't think the issue is them having a really difficult time of a difficult way of allowing the person to cancel their subscription. I don't think that's the actual problem. That can't be. I mean, it seriously cannot be that hard.
Yeah.
But I think the real problem is the termination fees.
Like, yeah,
Mhm.
like
I don't think anyone charges termination fees anymore nowadays unless it's like some serious critical stuff.
yeah, like let's say your phone provider, stuff like AT&T, T-Mobile,
They
Sprint.
used to. They used
Yeah.
to charge termination fees,
Mm,
but the way they did it kind of makes sense because whenever you cancel your phone, what you're doing is you're moving your phone number from one carrier to another, and at that
yeah.
and during those times, you will have to sign a contract for like a year or however long.
Mm-hmm.
So if you cut your essentially it's a contract, you're signing a contract. If you cut your contract, of course they're going to charge you money. But here, it's not a contract, so I don't
Yeah.
see a reason why they should be charging you a termination fee at all.
Yeah. No, I think the argument that at this point Adobe is going to make it for themselves too is that they're moving away from the fact that they are mostly selling you a product and they're selling you a service instead.
Yeah, that's fine, but that doesn't mean that it's necessary to charge a termination fee, right?
Yeah.
That's not a contract. You're not locked into
Yeah.
them for a year. I mean, technically you are, since if you do buy the year subscription, then what should happen is if you do cancel it, the subscription should run all the way until the end of your subscription, which is after a year or so.
Yeah.
But
No.
they don't cut it.
Mhm.
They don't cut. It's not a contract, and they don't cut it. They don't cut your They don't cut your subscription immediately when you cancel it. So what is? Why is there a termination fee? You know, like they don't
Yeah.
refund you anything. So I
Yeah.
don't
It's
understand.
yeah, and it's like so let's also bring this back a little bit too. In this case, like why in this case does it really matter if like Adobe gets split? In this case, Adobe is doing this type of shit. Unfortunately enough, too, lots of things that are available out there on the internet rely solely on Adobe. Like let's say, for example, Adobe Acrobat. That is a primary tool that people use to edit, modify, or read PDF files. Not pedophiles, PDFs.
Oh my gosh.
Excuse
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, that's
Who
a
said that?
apparently that's a condensed form of like People that cannot outright say pedophiles on like certain platforms, they just say PDFs.
What the hell, bro?
Yeah, so that already is a bit confusing. So to the younger people that are watching this, if hopefully you can differentiate what I'm talking about here if you read the title here as Adobe. But mine, needless to say too, this only affects a lot of times with a lot of content creators that actually use Adobe as well, because in this case the Adobe Premiere, which is a video editing software that a lot of content creators use, and for them it's not like, if anything, they forcing you to go on Creative Cloud to get all the features, like that's the only thing that they have on there. You can actually just get still the Premiere like subscription if you want to. But however, their early termination fees still apply to all of their products sellings, no matter what, too. Even on Creative Cloud, that shit applies. What really I feel like in this case, what the DOJ is like saying that like we're gonna put you to lawsuit first for the early termination fees, like outright, you're just not listing it as part of like your pricings for people here. I think really what's going to be coming down to is that the DOJ is going to like break apart, piece together like a lot of like their policies that Adobe has been rolling out, that has a lot of individual content creators and a lot of enterprise companies very much worrying of what Adobe is trying to do. And in this case, we're tying it back to AI once again, everybody. Hello, if you guys come back for this one more time.
Welcome
Welcome
to our
back to the AI
returning
show.
viewers.
Yep. So to put it bluntly of what's going on with Adobe here, in their policy, this is like as paraphrasing to the absolute maximum amount where I feel like I'm playing a telephone game based on how people are explaining it. But
That's all right. You just need to, tell them the main idea.
so the main idea essentially is like Adobe itself is claiming in their policy that they updated to that any product or any work that you've done under the usages of any Adobe products is also now the property of Adobe now. In all technical speaking, you don't own that no more too. Or if anything, Adobe now owns your product. In addition to that, it's still yours. But Adobe now has to say, hey, because you used our shit, we get to use yours.
It's kind of strange.
Yeah, it's
That's very strange, yeah, because
there's a
I
reason
mean,
for that too.
what's
There's
the
a
reason?
very the reason for it is because of the fact that Adobe has been rolling out, in this case, Adobe Acrobat currently has a very powerful AI feature where it can, in this case, read into not only PDF files, it can read Word doc files and PowerPoint presentations and then help
Wow.
you like create stuff from like whichever. The problem that this brings into is that now in this case, Adobe is now literally encroaching onto Microsoft territory now too, saying that it's also, if that's the language and model that they're using, Microsoft can wholeheartedly say, you know what, fuck you, Adobe, we're also going to say any product that's made under a Microsoft tools is now also our product, and now you're crossing our territories. So this is literally going to create a hostile environment for any productivity tools overall. Actually, no, productivity tools is different. It's literally anything that we need to function in today's society right now, where literally our work is never our own anymore. This is almost as ridiculous as, in this case, imagine if you're doing a DIY project at home, right? But the tools that you're using, let's say DeWalt, for example, anything that you built with DeWalt just says that's no longer your property no more. It's now ours additionally to yours. Anytime you use our product to build stuff with it, because that is an argument that Adobe is effectively using with this policy change.
Yeah, no, that's really dumb. I don't understand that. I mean, that's essentially just stealing somebody else's work.
And who knows, like I said, this would be 100% different, right? If Adobe itself was also sort of like a, in our eyes, like a morally ethical company. However, morally is heavily subjective in our terms, but in our case, they in this case would be in the same levels of, if they were in the same levels of Apple, where they keep your private data as tightly secured as possible. Maybe there's room to argue from there too. But obviously, that's never the case too, because we've also heard a lot of times Adobe was also part of a lot of data breach hacks here and there too.
Not surprising.
So, like I said, it's Adobe itself is really a problem that they're expecting us to really just say that we'll let this go by.
I think companies always have a tendency to push the limits until they get bitched at, which is really annoying, honestly.
It really is
They
annoying.
should just understand, like, this is not what the people want, and stop wasting your time in changing your policy to this specific policy. It makes no sense to me.
It really doesn't. But so in
Because
this
now
case,
once everybody rises up against Adobe, and then that's when they'll change their policy back to normal. I don't understand why I have to go through it to begin with.
yeah. But in this case, I want to hear from you, Michael, because I know like you yourself just barely understood like when I brought this up to you too. But I'll be honest, dude.
Okay, well,
Look,
maybe
let's be
rephrase that
honest.
a little bit. But yeah.
Sorry. Like when I brought this up to you, you weren't aware of this to happening in the first place. So
Yeah, I don't usually pay attention to a lot of like lawsuits and tech things.
well, in this case, Michael, unfortunately, we are making this podcast, so this is something that we're gonna have to like be paying attention to regardless, because obviously, this is a Hotter Trash podcast. We don't 100% support Adobe for all of the stuff. All the products that we are using here, we're using other competitors of Adobe. So I want to state that on the record as well to prove the point that one, I'm not also using Adobe Premiere because hell no, I'm not paying $20 a month. I'll just get the or Blackmagic's DaVinci like video editing tools. That's been like super helpful for us here.
Mhm.
Good time to time. But if anything, Michael, I want to hear what you have to say, especially all the points that at least I did my best to explain out in the most basic general terms of what the lawsuit will pertain and hopefully like what they're going to be tackling in that. Hopefully is the key word here.
Well, I mean, it is really bizarre that they have early termination fees. I do agree with Victor. Like in a lot of cases, whenever, because Adobe is subscription based, and if you were to cancel any other subscription based like software or service, they don't charge you an early termination fee. That's usually through contracts like your phone service and things like that. I know I'm kind of regurgitating a lot of what you just said, but I mean, it's because it feels very cut and dry. Like I really feel like that's very bizarre to have, and like they really gonna have to pull some like magic out to prevent like this lawsuit from winning, or from winning,
Yeah.
because it's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Plus, you have
Like,
the government on you, and I feel like it's kind of hard to defeat the government.
look, I'll even say this too. Even fucking Pornhub has better cancellation processes than fucking Adobe right now. And currently, Pornhub is currently blocked in Texas.
Yes, sir.
So for those that have a Pornhub,
That just means they care about the people, unlike Adobe.
yeah, which is also kind of insane to think about either, or kind of insane to think about too.
I don't think
But
it's insane to think about.
well, truly, it's not insane once you really figure out why they're doing this, and it's because of money. Let's be fucking honest here. There's a lot of money to be made by doing like, in this case, making your processes as difficult as possible to cancel because you want as many people to stay on your subscription, regardless.
I feel like what they should do is make a better product or not overcharge people, so
Yeah,
people would stay.
yeah.
I'm surprised that nobody in Adobe
Like
thought of
has
this.
told them that. Like, let's be honest too. I will say, like, people at least within my or when we were in high school, I don't think you were part of this too, Victor, nor Michael here. But did any of you guys actually pirate any other software like from Adobe? Okay, so
From
it was
Adobe.
just yeah.
No.
Okay, so it was just me because back in like middle school, I figured out in this case like for one of like the torrent forms that I would regularly visit to always get in this case like somebody would make like a Photoshop portable that I can literally have Photoshop just be on my USB drive. And I go to any school computer and I just plug in my USB drive and I have Photoshop open from there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like my extent to like, for me, like me and Victor have thought about this as well too, that like pirating is also sort of less a byproduct of, in this case, people that cannot afford the product that you're offering because of the fact that they do need it but they can't afford it. I feel like that was a little bit redundant here, right? But it's obviously that there's a need for, in this case, the product that you are offering, but they don't have the money for it. So therefore, they're going to find any other ways or means to attain it, whether it's through like a third party offering or, in this case, through a legal means.
Just know that we do not condone the pirating, and this was what Mr. Bowie has done a long time back, not now.
Yeah. Yeah. Not now anymore, because I think the person that was doing that too, yeah, he just says that I'm bored of this. So he just left. I'm like, oh, okay. I think if I find my old USB drive too, I think I still have, like in this case, a 2012 Photoshop portable on my fucking USB drive.
You gotta.
Yeah, that's how old that thing is, right? I have, like in this case, a 2012 and it's Photoshop portable. Because that's
gotta find this 2012 USB.
Yeah, fuck.
USB from 12 years ago. That's crazy, bro.
Right. Now I need
Why
to
do you still
find
have
it.
that?
I remember I found it like a year ago. Now I can't anymore, and it's saddening too because I also had all of my other music that I definitely acquired. Okay, not legally, but okay.
Illegal.
Okay, let's just say for certain too, like this was during a time when like we were burning CD tracks, right? Before
Yeah.
Apple Music was a thing.
Before Spotify and anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. Before Spotify, right? If anything, too, let's just go back to this case when everything is subscription based here. I would agree with, like, in this case, our friend Matt, that was also a special guest character or a special guest here and there too. I was about to call him a character, but technically speaking,
Yeah.
he is.
We're all
Technically, he is. We're all characters.
here, dude.
Yeah. So I would at least agree to that. Like, there are certain, in this case, subscriptions that are definitely valuable. Spotify being definitely one of them, at least for consumer or for the consumer masses here.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem with the fact with Adobe too is the fact that their product is quintessential to a lot of things that our industry needs. Like, let's say, for example, PDFs. That is something that, like, literally everybody starts to know ubiquitously of how, in this case, how important PDF files are.
Yeah.
And so having, in this case, Adobe Acrobat, they want to roll out the feature of AI stuff, right? That's perfectly fine. They can do that too. And it's like, as long as like the purposes of the AI is only being used locally or whenever you're using the application and it's only reading stuff locally on your computer, which, mind you, that's still questionable to some people, but that itself is very much better than, in this case, other models. I'm looking at Google, for example, here. Fucking adding glue to your pizza sauce to make it sure the cheese sticks on there better. What the fuck?
What?
Don't worry, that's its own thing that we'll probably make it AI talk part 3. God, there's been a lot of things that happen there too. But it's also the fact with Adobe that they updated their policy to include that they are going to be using your files or the stuff that you use Adobe to make those files with as part of their own training model for their own AI stuff in house. Which, mind you, as an individual, that's already bad enough that makes it so that your work is not your own. But as an enterprise, that's even scarier notion to think about as well, too, because of the fact that, hey, you're now going to have to battle Adobe about the fact that, like, hey, you can't use this. You got to make it so that our files or anything that we make under your product is not being used to train your AI models, because at the time, the things they have can have confidential shit
Mm-hmm.
or corporate confidential shit. And you don't want that shit to be like popping up in like people's everyday usage if they want to use the AI feature. That's currently the actual issue with a lot of times too, is that they're doing this in broad strokes in trying to acquire data. without any regard with the fact of where that data comes from. And this is the only reason why the Department of Justice is honestly get more involved with it too, because this is starting becoming a much more invasive problems with a lot of these tech companies, especially with tech startups here, that are having like technologies that go through the internet in mass sweeps to just collect as much data as they can to train their models. And with companies, for sure, they do their best to make sure that their own data is not like out there, like publicly on the internet. And that's what they're hoping for, is that these companies are not like are only collecting data from the public domain. Once they, like in this case, what Adobe is doing is effectively breaching towards that category of like, now they're just taking stuff that's like your work data. That becomes its own issue that, in this case, let's be honest, US government also uses Adobe products. That's also bad.
Mm-hmm.
So in more cases in general, Michael, they would literally need to pull a rabbit out of their hat type of scenario in order to make sure they don't get hit with like a heavy ass fine.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be honest, that's not really what's going to happen. I think what I really want to see what's going to happen in this too is that whatever the result is for this lawsuit, it is definitely going to change how a lot of tech industries is going to be handling, like, not even just the subscription fees, termination stuff, like how it needs to be handled, or even the AI stuff. I think it has like bigger implication what this is going to imply, just because how big Adobe is, and how a lot of times too, whatever like every US trial happens to, if it goes to like the federal level too, all the companies will do everything they can to make sure they follow the law regardless. Because if they don't, it is effectively they're going to be ran under. We have criticisms about the government, but once they do, if they do the job properly, they are a powerful like mafia or like a gangster group that you don't want to be fucking with.
Mm-hmm.
I'll even admit it too that like sometimes the US government feels like it's like an actual fucking gangster like group that you don't want to fuck with regardless.
I agree.
But outside of me monologuing there, is there any input that you feel like that you would like to see come out from this trial?
I mean, no early termination fees for subscription-based items that aren't contractual.
Yeah, honestly, that's the main thing. I mean, like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Like a lot of companies have gotten rid of their early termination fees, so I don't know why Adobe is essentially like reintroducing it.
Yeah, it's not even being reintroduced too. There are still like other stuff that still uses early termination fees, like in this case
I
for
know, but I'm
like
saying like
fitness centers. But yeah,
fitness centers.
yeah, like in this case,
Oh yeah,
this
yeah, yeah. If it's not more than a year, I mean, you have to be there for at least a year or something.
yeah. Whether or not if it's because of the fact for fitness center wise, it's because like they want you to at least try to like exercise for like a year before you like cancel it. Maybe that's the only reason why. But even then, that can be still shaky a little bit.
I really don't think they have a reason to do that. You know, like, I mean, I guess they don't want them to just work out for like a
6
month or
months.
two, and then
Yeah.
a month or two, bro. You know those people with their New Year's resolutions, they go
Oh,
in like
yeah.
2 or 3 months and they're fucking done.
Yeah,
I don't.
that's why that maybe that's
But,
why that's there.
but either way, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, if they don't want to be there. They don't want to be there. Why are you forcing them to be there?
Yeah, it's obviously for money.
Yeah, but it's really dumb. I don't think that's right. I don't think a gym should be charging
Yeah,
like termination fees at all.
yeah. Like I said, that's something that hopefully that's what the result of this lawsuit would be, is the fact that companies overall need to provide like a much more clearer like itemization receipt of, in this case, before you check out, of, in this case, certain clauses, conditions, what will happen if you do cancel early, just so that one, you don't get yourself in a position that you would buy a product but then you want to back out of it and then you get hit with this thing out of nowhere. At least let them be informed of that, like in most cases too with hospital bills, where you can ask them for an itemized receipt, just so that one, you're not hit with like a fucking $50,000 like fee for a checkup.
Yeah, what you do in that case is not pay.
Yeah, what you do in
Yeah.
case, at least in the eyes of the healthcare system of America, you don't have to pay that shit because because insurance will cover partial of that, and then the hospital just writes off whatever you owe to them as a tax write-off. That's it. You don't really need to pay shit. I don't know if it
Anyways,
still
back to what we're
affects you,
saying.
but yeah. Moving back to the tech stuff because we are not obligated for that shit, anyways. But what I do hope that most definitely for this case too is that what they're really going to be pushing out for would be in this case the abrupt policy changes that Adobe is doing, where it becomes a basic disregard of digital ownership, which is that's always been a argumentative topic for quite some time.
Truly.
Like let's just say for example when we look back at like when we talk about NFTs, that was supposed to be in a way to how we can have like a form of like digital, like a proper form of digital ownership, but a lot of people misunderstood of the thing here too, or if anything not really misunderstood, people were explaining what NFTs poorly on purpose. That was also a little bit infuriating.
Yeah, it was. I think they did truly just misinform everybody.
Yeah, because like NFTs for this point, like it would in this case serve the purposes of like what Adobe would do is to make sure that like you properly own the product that you purchased, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it would be like a itemized receipt that is your signature, your name on it, that's kept in a record in a digital like ledger book that cannot be altered or changed here. But obviously, the technology, how we make sure we enforce that was not there yet, but the idea behind it was good.
What do you mean?
Or, sorry, if anything, I'm gonna pass this off to Victor to help me explain it. Like in this case, whatever I said wrong, because I'm pretty sure I did for that regard too.
Well, anyway,
But
it's not our topic, anyways.
yeah, but anyways, moving on then. I really do hope that they are pushing for this lawsuit that in this case making it so that one, they're putting more emphasis. Hopefully, the US does this in the way that the Europeans have done it too, where data privacy is just as important as your own individual rights as a consumer, or as, yeah, as a consumer. I hopefully that's what they push for.
Why can't
I
we think
doubt
of
that is the thing. I doubt that
why,
would be a topic here, but yeah.
why can't we think of this like this digital privacy stuff? Why can't we think of it as the same as not allowing unreasonable search and seizure? Because essentially it's the same thing, right? Our data is ours; it's our property.
Yeah.
Essentially, if you're able to take our data, isn't that just like essentially seizure?
Yeah. Like, I feel like
You're
that.
just stealing our data. I mean, like, shouldn't that be illegal? Like taking our property essentially.
Yeah, but I think there's an argument that could be said too. Like this is going to be a little bit off topic here, but this will probably bring back up to the point here. But I think a lot of times too, people would argue against that too, is because the fact that it ruins in this case, or in this case, it throws away in this case, like
In this
internet
case,
anonymity and internet anonymity. Because at that point, how would you actually kind of enforce that? You would in this case need to at least give out some type of information of yourself online
That's
in order
fine.
to
That's you
enforce
giving
it.
it out. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what do you mean?
Because like the way how this is like kind of described to you, because like what Adobe is doing is like a seizure of like your own private data, right?
Mm-hmm.
To use to train like whatever model or whatever product that they're about to sell to another type of customer
Uh-huh.
based off of your data that they in this case they took unlawfully. Let's be honest, it should be unlawfully, but there's no really laws to really prevent companies to do this either. In order for I feel like in order for them to really do that, at least in my opinion, you would have to at least give out some parts of your identification or data, just so that one you could claim the fact that hey, that's my private information, so that Adobe doesn't really claim the fact that hey, everybody's data is uploaded publicly and free to use for everybody, so it doesn't really matter in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, it's like in some ways too. I think I heard like arguments as well where the internet itself has become like the next domain of where the town hall is at, where the people's town hall is at.
It is, yeah.
And because of the fact that like people are trying their best to make like legislation and rulings behind that too, but it's even more difficult too when you try to figure out like who are these people actually are, or if they're just like trolls on the internet that are just pushing for like dumbass laws to, or dumbass like ideas to be pushed out because it gets them clicks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really like, at least in a philosophical setting, it is definitely difficult to try to like figure that out. But whatever Adobe is doing is definitely wrong. No one is going to argue for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least that's what I'm hoping for, that the US like law will at least enforce the fact that, hey, whatever you're doing, Adobe, that is definitely not the right thing to do. It will definitely scare all the other tech companies to be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't just outright just start scraping people's stuff just to train our language model. I'm looking at you, Meta and Facebook. Why do you think you have so many artists leaving your platform and making their own?
Yeah.
Anyways, without my beef aside to Mark Zuckerberg here, or the lizard man himself, um, if anything, I heard in this case from Victor's point, Michael, is there something that you would at least like to hear and listen to, or like, oh, not listen to, that you would like to hear come to fruition from this lawsuit case? Just because a lot of court cases tend to be very much like impactful to the way how society is ran.
I would definitely like companies to stop gouging all of us in many ways, shapes, or forms, and secretly stealing all our data.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because everything now, going back to one of our episodes, is the subscription now, and it's annoying.
Yeah, it really is annoying. God damn it. I really wish, you know what I really wish in the future too? That we can build our own subscription plans with tech companies. We have the technology to figure out like what features and products we want from like the company now, right? Why couldn't we just tailor make a subscription?
It would be nice, yeah.
Like,
But of course, it's gonna be hard for the company, and then they
yeah,
won't want to do that stuff. So there's gonna be just a singular package. It's kind of like cars, you know. They give you separate trims and stuff, but
yeah,
usually each trims have like different features.
yeah. And
They don't
sometimes
give you
you,
they don't let you design a car and then have whatever feature you want. Actually, I lied. Well, no, I didn't lie.
let's just say for levity's sake here, like certain high-end like luxury cars can let you customize to an extent.
Bro, honestly, the only one that can truly let you customize is a Rolls Royce. They let you put literally anything you want inside that car. It's crazy. But what I'm saying is they won't let you individually like choose features and stuff. So you're stuck with choosing tiers of subscription rather than the features that you need.
Yeah. Like like I said, that's why that's pretty much what I hope for too, where we can have like a much more personal or itemized approach to how we build our subscription plans. Just because imagine if we had the ability and power to do that too, like how much more money that a single American could actually save if they could control like what part of the subscription do you actually care about, and you itemize that correctly, or you price that correctly. Well, let's say, for example, for like Netflix too, you could give a fuck less about all the other shows or Netflix original shows that they have too. If you, in this case, all the shows that they have like deals to like stream, like all the other like older films that you would like on there too. Or let's just make it simple. Any non-Netflix original shows or movies
Well,
that you want to see, that should be its own separate pay model.
well, yeah,
And then,
obviously you already made it complicated and then simplified it. So that means that
yeah.
this whole choosing your own features thing, it doesn't seem practical already.
Yeah, it doesn't seem practical. Like I will admit that it's not practical to do it that way, one shape or the other. But I'm just speaking in like the perspective as a consumer, that would be helpful to have
But
at least
that's
like
to
some
you
form.
because a
Yeah,
lot of consumers they want simple.
yeah,
They don't want to like have a 32 million different like 32 million different options they can choose from.
yeah.
They
That's
just
true
want a
because
few. They just want a few options that they can compare and contrast, and then choose the one that's good for them.
yeah, like in this case, how nowadays it's even much more annoying where we had to have 5 streaming subscriptions now if we want to watch all of our favorite shows now.
We gotta have a million, bro.
God,
depending on what you want to watch too.
God.
Like I'm watching more Asian like drama stuff, and the normal American streaming sites don't have those. Not a
Um,
lot.
or even if you wanted to as well, you would technically have to break like certain like streaming services TOS if you wanted like VPN to that other country to like
Yeah,
view like region locked content, which is stupid in my opinion, but it is what it is.
that's what it is.
So I really am hoping for like at least something good to come out from the Adobe. I'm having my fingers crossed here because half the time too, the government does have a good track record whenever testifying people about technology.
No, they're getting
Yeah.
better now. They're getting way better now. I
There
mean,
are
I guess I got I guess the time where they Zuckerberg on the trial, everyone still remembers that for some reason. But no, they're doing a lot better nowadays.
yeah,
Obviously, the news is not going to tell you when the government does good. So
yeah, the news will never tell you any good news to you yourself as a American citizen that is definitely watching this. If you are an American citizen, pay please pay attention not to the news media site that are going through. Literally, you can go find like court documents on like public like domains of the governments too, because they are obligated to post these out.
No,
So,
I trust the media.
God, I forgot what this movie was called, but it's effectively that's what the whole like society has turned into. It's the fact that like everybody listens not to the government, but to whatever like the most charismatic person says to you. And even a president becomes a joke because I believe in that movie too, Terry Crews is running for president. So if anybody in the comments that is watching on YouTube can tell me what that movie was, please post it down below and we'll definitely like if anything, I'll watch it. I'll probably just show Victor clips of it.
Just Victor clips.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if anything, let's be honest, I would love to do more movie reviews too at some point because finally, in this case, we got Victor watching movies.
watching what?
Crazy Rich, well, not Crazy Rich Asians, but in this case, Everything Everywhere All at Once, best Asian American flick. Michael, go ahead and watch that for me too. So at some point, we get that shit ready for a
Yeah,
movie review for that.
watch that with bro.
Yeah, watch that with, and then you get to truly experience what it means to live as an Asian American, kinda. Although it's a little bit like I'll talk about this off stream, so I don't get off topic here.
I'll
But
talk about it.
yeah, but like I said, I really do hope the best for this. And honestly, I only hope for the best for this one because this definitely has, in this case, the interest of the American people at heart here. Only because the American people at heart means, in this case, the American governance is at risk here, whatever Adobe is pulling.
I'd like to think that what it was is Adobe, like the government wanted to change like services, and Adobe charged them, and they were like, "No, ain't no way." And,
Why?
and then they were just like, "We're gonna take this to court."
I'm 100% okay if that was the justification or reason for that. Was because one congressman was so upset at the way that they had to cancel their subscription with Adobe. I am 100% okay with that because you want to know why? Because at least that person gets to experience what us individual Americans had to deal with every day.
Mm-hmm.
That is by far, in my means, still a win in my book. That's why in this case, a lot more people are actually paying attention to this shit. It's because of the fact that Adobe has been, let's be honest, it's not like the most recent thing that they did. This is something that they have been doing stuff for quite some time. And like, I don't know. It's a lot more annoying to like hear that like tech companies are still trying to enforce like early termination fees that in this case is forcing consumers to be part of like a 1 year obligation to their subscription. Like, uh,
I mean, look, if you buy it for a year, then you should keep it for a year. That's the thing, though.
yeah,
That's how it generally is. If you do buy it for a year, you keep it for the rest of the year. Even if you cancel even if you cancel like a day after you subscribe to it. You still keep it for the rest of the year. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, why charge early termination fees? You have no reason to.
Yeah, that's like, again, I think that's also like honestly the only good thing that the American government has done too, at least in our opinion here, right?
Mhm.
This is some of the things that like this is definitely the job that the American government needs to actually do here. I could care less what they're trying to push out and what to influence. I don't care about that. This is something that is definitely the job of them because they're the ones to make sure that Adobe doesn't get away with like especially anti-consumer practices. Let's be honest. That's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make sense for Adobe to do early termination fee because that is, in this case, a very much an outdated practice in a day and age where a lot of times too, people should have access to being able to like buy a subscription. But if you only want to try it out for the year, okay, they should still hit you with a charge that in this case, you're going to be using this as if you're going through the whole year.
That's fine.
And then after that year passes, that's when you're like, oh, that's when they will stop providing you the services. Makes perfect sense. That's something that like every customer agrees to.
Mhm.
So this is also just me like parroting myself like throughout these times too. Adobe can go fuck themselves here. Adobe is the main reason why piracy in software is such a prolific thing that's happening in a lot of tech industry. Not even just in America. Fucking every country would pirate Adobe software because of, in this case, their unattainable pricing models. I say unattainable, but they're arguing it in this case, their way how they do subscription is technically attainable, which in some arguments, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's literally no different. It's just that now that you don't actually own the physical copy no more.
Mhm.
So want to at least bring the mic to you then, Victor. Is there anything you would like to say in this regard?
I hope the U.S. government can make Adobe change their ways and be a better company. Kick W.
KW.
Companies.
I mean, that's the only reason why it is because we rely on like the US government in the first place. Is because the fact that we as the people too, we understand that like our wallet can influence companies to an extent where if the company itself does some moronic shit like this too, where money doesn't matter to them, that's when the government has to be go in with like a big ass stick to be like, what the hell are you doing?
Absolutely.
That is the only thing that in this case the government can be relied on in that regard. Is if anything, the government itself has some level of accountabilities here that they need to abide by. And if they allow Adobe to do this shit too, we would already just start voting people out of office so that the correct people go in to make sure that they enforce a policy that we want.
Yeah.
So that is at least the big hopes and dreams here, because that's something that at least us as American citizens, that's the power that we are given here. As much as like you have lobbied congressmen to do such and such, you can always just say, we'll just vote you out. Simple as that. Just stand your ground. And also to Adobe's CEO that's going to be on trial at some point too, go fuck yourself. I never bought it. I never put any money to your single product too. My company that I work with or that I work for, not with it assumes the fact that like I own a company and I'm working with that I'm working for to help pay for this podcast. I hope I'll
I don't know
change
what
their
you're
mind
talking
on
about
this.
either.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll change their mind on this too. Hopefully. But if anything, that's not my say regardless, because that's the other company decision. But hopefully I can convince them otherwise too that, hey, I don't want people to be doing business with Adobe if that's their policy and that's the goal that they're trying to go for here. that is at least everything I could say in exhaustion to that point now. I feel like I've already beaten them to the ground too. Now, imagine the amount of time I would say if it was Ubisoft.
Oh yeah, that can be another topic we can talk about.
Ubisoft.
God,
Ubi
fucking
shit.
God. If anything, they already had their own issues too. I would gladly talk about that shit at some point. But today is not that topic, unfortunately. If you guys do want to hear us talk about like other topics outside of like me coming up with shit in the background and throwing like a dart on the board.
Follow our Twitch and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And also engage with
Don't
us on
forget to
our
like,
X
comment,
account.
and
I mean Twitter
subscribe.
account.
Talk with us, please.
On X,
Like we-
formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah. I will never call it as X, even though I just did for that joke.
X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah. So please engage with us as much as you can too, because this will definitely help us out a lot.
Not
And
only that, it'll help everyone out too because they're able to get more information about certain topics that they want to know about. So it's a win-win, guys.
yeah, it's a win-win. And I want to at least promote that the people that are watching this too, that you are listening to us because you like to hear us shit talk a lot of things too. Like we are very opinionated here.
Absolutely. Everybody else is wrong.
But B, we are in this case advocating for yourself, for everybody to be able to think for themselves here, because at least to the viewers that are in America, you have that ability, you have that capacity to be able to think for yourself. You don't have to follow what people tell you to do.
Really, they're supposed to.
Yeah,
Have like
at least after you're 18 years old. If you're before 18, go to school for fuck's sakes.
Yeah, stay in school.
Stay in school. Do your time.
Do
the time.
But yes, until you turn 18, then you can start actually like start thinking for yourself. Please. We are very much a individualistic society. That can be a problem of its own, but that's also the strongest point of American society. So please, everybody, if you want to learn more about this, there's definitely way more better people than us that talks about this in depth. We are mostly talking about it as if like we are content creators for this. And obviously for content creators, Adobe is a big part in the content creation process. So I hope everyone here has a wonderful evening here too. I'm tragically sorry about the initial stream that ended up roughly at that. I was definitely not prepared for that as it's been 2 weeks. But I will promise you this next week too, that we'll hopefully get a anniversary stream starting. I'll definitely inform everybody here that is a follower of mine on a YouTube announcement post or like a Twitter announcement post, whichever the case it may be, that we're going to do an anniversary stream. And that'll be something that like for a sneak peek here, it'll get everybody here that's watching to know a little bit about us here and there.
Woo.
Yeah,
Oh
self-promotion because self-promotion because we don't have a promo for our company to sponsor us. Please, Taco Bell, I want you guys to sponsor us. We will sell out for you.
Please. Please.
Yeah.
He will.
I will at least. And so will in this case our special guest character, Matt.
Guest character.
Like I'm sorry, anybody that joins in our stream is going to be considered a character because let's be honest, I am going for like the most maximum like personality of like there's no way this type of person thinks this way in real life.
Makes sense. You know
Yeah.
what? If you're not a host or a permanent guest star, you're just a character.
Yeah, exactly. And your opinion doesn't matter at that point. I'm kidding. We all care about everybody's opinion matters. But none of it
Sure
matters
about
more
that?
than mine.
There you go.
But yes, thank you all for tuning in. And I am very much sorry again for a scuffed stream. It happens here and there, guys. But thank you all for tuning in tonight. I promise you that we'll definitely be coming into the next year with even better content. And hopefully we'll probably do webcam
year?
stream at some point.
Next
Hopefully.
year? Already, bro? It's only June.
Well, in this case, based on our 1 year
He's prepping us
anniversary for
for
the
6 months
podcast,
out.
all right? Goddamn shit.
It's only June, bro.
I don't care.
Damn, bro.
I don't care. Do you think how many breaks that we took too in between? But anyways, thank you all for tuning in tonight. And I appreciate every one of you guys that takes the time out of their days or nights to listen to us speak our bullshit.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.